Flat nines are an essential part of your dominant chord vocabulary because they're used in lines by so many of the great jazz musicians. I mean, we find flat nines in lines by Hank Mobley, Sonny Stitt, Coltrane, Scott Hamilton. So many of the great players, especially the post-bop players, post-bop, we encounter these flat nine lines. And so I've got an essential pattern I'm going to show you in a moment that'll take you through all 12 keys. But what we're going to use is just one specific example of a flat nine where we play 3, flat 9, 8, 7 on a dominant chord. So you know that'll be a major third, the flat 9, the root, and then the dominant 7 or the minor 7 that's on the dominant chord. So we often have these directional flat 9 lines that travel from the third of the dominant chord towards the third of either a major chord in a 5-1 resolution, or if we're maybe in rhythm changes where we have the 5 chord that goes to the 3 chord, they can travel directly towards the root of the 3 chord, and they even work in 5 kind of chordal movements, which will be the basis of our pattern I'll show you in a moment. So a directional line using a flat 9, 3, flat 9, 8, 7. You hear that it's moving in a straight line. I refer to that as directional. Or an angular line might include. It's still 3, flat 9, 8, 7 either way. So we've got the directional and the angular connection. Those are going to be critical to our pattern that I'll show you in a few minutes. But now you encounter these in 2-5-1s often. So a common 2-5-1 passage that has a directional flat 9 connection might be something like. And you've probably also heard these angular connections in 2-5-1 passages like. So I think both of those are really pretty cool passages. Now, I've got a really cool perpetual motion kind of pattern that travels through the keys around the circle of fourths using dominant chords. You know, a lot of times we call the circle of fourths in dominant chords the cycle of dominance. So let me play the pattern for you one time, and then I'll explain it to you. And there I just played through all 12 keys, and it's a pretty neat sounding pattern. You hear the perpetual motion. I could just continue and continue round and around the keys using that pattern. Now, what I'm doing again is the circle of fourths, cycle of dominance. I'm starting on a D7. You could start anywhere, but I'm starting on D7 with the 3, flat 9, 8, 7 on D7. Our next chord is the G7. So using guide tone motion from the 7 to the 3, that would be the C on the D7 to the B on the G7. I can just move forward into the next chord, and I can play 3, flat 9, 8, 7 on the next chord, and it'll drop me off on the subsequent chord on the third. So we have really cool perpetual motion that works particularly well when you use a combination of directional passages and the angular passages that help you keep it in a playable range on the instrument. So the first 3 chords maybe I'll use a combination of directional and angular lines, you know, so the angular lines have the displacement on the flat 9. So here we go. D7. I landed on the B, the third of the G7 chord. I'm going to use an angle. I could continue downward, but I've chosen to, in our example here, to put the angle in there. So again on the D7, an angle up to the flat 9, and I played flat 9, 8, 7 on the G7 chord. I landed on the third of the C7 chord, and I'm going to just continue with a directional line. So from the top there. Now, that will continue perpetually through the keys. Listen one more time as I play it through all 12 keys. And of course, I've got a cheat sheet in the written part of this lesson, so you'll have that available for you if you need the cheat sheet. But really, the thing is, learn it, try to learn it without using the cheat sheet. If you have to use the cheat sheet to check yourself, then so be it. But your real objective will be to learn this pattern and then be able to play it through the keys perpetually, even putting the angular and the directional connections on different chords. That way you have a little bit of an organic navigation process as you move through the chords. So listen to it as I play it through the chords. And you might have noticed that that time I did my connections a little differently on the first three chords. I didn't do the same angular and directional connections. I wanted you to hear it kind of mixed up a bit. Now, kind of make a note to yourself that these dominant flat nines don't have to be used on dominant flat nine chords. They can be used on most dominant chords, particularly in 3/6, 2/5, or in 2/5-1 kind of situations, much like we have in rhythm changes. So have fun practicing this one. It's a lot of fun. And I'm Randy Hunter, beginningsax.com. If you'd like to check out my full lesson series, I hope you'll visit there. And of course, you can subscribe to my lesson series at randyhunterjazz.vhx.tv. And I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel here so that you can get in on more and more of these essentials videos and other videos that I've got available.